Hello, everybody, and welcome to Author Content. My name is Morton. This is episode 66. Today is May the 2nd, so we're starting to get into summer. Thus the t-shirt, Pluto is not a planet, just in case anyone was wondering. Pluto is a planet or is not, I don't know. James
Nope.
has opinions on this.
Not a planet.
It totally is.
With me, as always, I have my two co-hosts, James Williamson.
Hello. Hi. Oh, hi. Hi. Yes.
And
And not only do I want to say that Pluto is a planet, but I also want to say May the 4th be with you.
Oh.
but that's not today.
I know, but it's coming up, man. It's like 2 days.
I saw the Big Bang episode yesterday. I found that hilarious.
Wow. That's bad.
Coming up.
It is. On May the 5th, I will be speaking at Artifact Conference
Awesome.
in Austin, Texas, and I'll be talking about icon fonts. So that'll be really fun.
Well, on May 19th, I'll be at HTML5 DEF Conf in San Francisco, so that should be cool.
Great.
On tomorrow, I'll be in my backyard talking. I have nothing.
Talking to your neighbor about barbecue. That sounds good.
Swearing at the clouds for. So, James, you have something quite interesting to talk about today.
I've got a couple of things that are forming kind of a trend that to me is alarming. I always tell folks in my introductory level courses specifically that there are two, the web and the internet are two different things, and I think we lose sight of that sometimes. And recently, over the past year and a half to 2 years, I would say, there is a move more towards having content, consumed through the internet rather than through the web. And what I mean by that is the internet is the connected network of all the things that we have available to us. If your phone is connected and you're playing words with friends and you're sharing information back and forth, you're doing that over the internet. You're not necessarily doing that through the web because the web relies on the HTTP protocol for the most part, and it is web pages, websites. So one thing that sort of tripped my alarm recently this week is a future version of Google Chrome. Google has their sort of test browser that they call Canary, and if you want to check out the things that they're working on, you can download Canary and see kind of the changes that they're pushing to the browser. Well, the latest version of Canary has a flag that you can turn on and off in it that basically hides the URL. And it's Google's way of sort of testing out what somebody's browsing experience would be like if the URL was not displayed. Already in the address bar within your browser, our protocols have started to become hidden. Most of the time you don't actually see the HTTP or the HTTPS. And, in a lot of ways that's for the users. I mean, that means something to me and you and to Ray, but it doesn't really mean anything to, say, my mom. It's going to confuse her when she sees that. She's going to think, oh, what happened? I meant to go to Amazon, and there's all this stuff up there. It just doesn't say Amazon. So in the newest version, it does just say Amazon. It doesn't even say Amazon.com. It would just say Amazon. And if you wanted to go somewhere, you would type in, into the address bar, like if you wanted to go watch authored content, you would type in authored content. And what would happen? Well, Google would present you with a list of choices to click from. So this does a couple of things. Number one, it makes sure that you're using Google to go anywhere, basically. And the second thing is it supposedly streamlines the process of what you see up there because you're not, confronted by these bewildering, scary, and insecure string of characters. But I think the hiding the URL actually has sort of a chilling effect on things. And I'm worried that it's going to make connecting web pages and sharing web content with other people a little bit more difficult now, and I'm concerned about that. When you throw together something that Facebook is doing, which is app links, which I think Ray might talk a little bit more about because he had some information on that stuff. But app links is something that Facebook is coming up with that allows you to link from one app to another app the same way that we can link between web pages now. And that is, that's kind of a big deal as well because it sort of further takes content and pulls it more towards the internet and away from the web. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts about all these things.
Yeah, sort of a surprising move from Google because you would think that that would take away from their search engine. Because right now, if you type in something, it give you like search results?
Yes, and it still would.
Okay.
Even in Canary, you type in something, it's going to give you the search results. It actually, basically, the address bar, becomes the Google search field. And so for them, that's a huge win because that means
Wow.
every time you want to go somewhere, you're Google searching it for the most part.
Okay, so you type in whatever, and it's going to be doing a search result and then give you the results on the main window. But then when you hit enter, you would just directly go to the site. Is that the idea?
Go right to it. And you type in Amazon, and it would know that you probably mean Amazon.com. It would probably take you there. Yeah. And I've seen some. I haven't actually played with it myself, but I've seen some screen caps, and it's not a dramatic departure from what most people do now in terms of their browsing. And Google can be, you could look at it as they're streamlining the process a little bit. But when you totally hide the URL, it becomes a lot harder for, say, you and me to share information between ourselves. Because right now I can email you a link and say, hey, man, check this out. And I can just copy and paste the URL. That's going to become a lot harder to do if this goes forward.
So what is the... So, yeah, that's an actual issue in the sharing components. I'm assuming that what they're building is some sort of other way of sharing it. And then you can start thinking, is this part of that larger move that they're doing right now where they're rethinking Google Plus and all this stuff? Because, parallel to the is Google killing the URL discussion, on the same day and around the same time that story broke, there was also an Atlantic article, I think, that was called The Death of Twitter. That got a lot of eulogy for Twitter. That's why I couldn't find it right away. Where they're talking about how Twitter has become garbage because all people do is share links, and then they were saying, the links make no sense because everyone's using URL shorteners, so you just get those garbled nonsense links, and then some sort of text from it, and all of it is link baiting, so you have no idea what you're actually going to. So you have kind of two very conflicting things happening at the same time. And it seems to me like, was it Wired had an article a couple of years ago with a picture of Mark Zuckerberg on the front page that said the death of the web, or is the web dead, or something like that, where they were talking about how Facebook wanted to kill the web and make everything into apps. And maybe this is Google's way of doing the same thing. But if so, how do we keep sharing our content without being tied to networks?
Right, and that becomes the real problem, the appification of everything, and frankly, people have shown a preference for consuming content within an app. I love Twitter. I'm a big fan of Twitter. When I experience Twitter on a mobile application, it's through an app. It's not through the browser. It's not through, now when I'm on my desktop, I'll use a browser to do it. And I have a lot of people that are like, well, which Twitter client do you use? And I just use the native Twitter website, which almost everybody universally agrees is a suboptimal experience.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, people are increasingly used to accessing content through apps. And it's one of those things that the more people get used to it, the less they'll actually worry about whether the web is is something that they're interacting with or not. In a lot of cases, people don't know whether they're on an app or a website. We have these single-page JavaScript websites now that they're JavaScript-driven that are designed to look like apps. And when that happens, a lot of times it becomes difficult to share content in the way that we're used to normally sharing it across the web. And I think where people aren't going to realize what they lose when all this stuff goes away, I don't think it'll be readily apparent until they actually lose it.
Yeah, this makes me think of there's so many pieces that go into this. This is net neutrality. It's the application of the web. It's the API-ification of everything. There's the native app discussion. There's the ownership of content too, because one of the things that made the web what it is today and what made it change everything. I mean, if you think back 15, 20 years, our entire society was different, and what changed it was the web itself. And one of the reasons why that happened was because anyone can publish anything they want on the web. Right. You don't need a colossal amount of money or expertise or anything to do it. And what this looks like is kind of like the big broadcasting companies in television or radio, right, trying to take over the conversation by saying that we have the main channel, and if you want to go outside of the main channel, you're just by falling to the wayside because everyone's using these main channels to get content. And when you then add on to that net neutrality, where bigger competitors will have a larger bandwidth in the system and all these things, you're really moving towards a situation where we are no longer looking at actual, a free open web anymore where everyone can say what they want. We're looking at a very controlled web where only the people that have the money can really control the conversation, and then there will be like a subset of everyone else, like the commoners who are just like blabbing.
Well, and that's what concerns me, I think, the most about this. You go from a situation where content is essentially open and free and shared among different sites, to a situation where content is tightly controlled through the organization that owns that particular silo. Yeah. You look at blogging. Medium has been hailed as this really great site, and it is really cool. But I know a lot of people who are now no longer even interested in creating their own blogs because of the hassle. They just want to publish through Medium. So what happens then? Now Medium, becomes the aggregator of all that content, and they sort of have some ownership over that content in terms of how.
Have you noticed the semantic part of that Medium discussion?
Yeah.
I think I'm more focused on how people use language than most people are. But I keep noticing that people say, my latest article that I wrote for Medium,
right,
rather than saying that I published on Medium, as if, they've managed to change the concept of, I'm just writing an article to, you are writing an article for us, we're the publication.
Right.
So, and it's funny because I was like, maybe you wrote it for Medium. Did they pay you for this? Is this some sort of? And then I go and check, and it's like, no, anyone can write for Medium. It's just right. It's like saying I wrote an article for my blog, or I wrote an article for WordPress.com.
Right.
But what they managed to do is make people identify their content with the brand rather than their own sites. Instead of saying I wrote an article on my site on Medium, they say I wrote an article for Medium.
Right. It's like the
that's a
quote.
Very big difference.
I think the quote was. I think Mike Montero made the quote. I'm going to paraphrase it to the best I can remember. It is, if you're not paying for, if you're, gosh, what was it? It was something like, if you're not paying, if you're not paying for the commodity, you're the commodity.
Yep.
And that's essentially what Medium, what Medium is doing, and in a lot of ways, that's what's going to happen to a lot of content as it gets moved through these different silos, is that the people that control those can control the flow of information and commerce and money, and of course Google has every interest in the world in doing that. Google wants to, it wants all content to flow through Google. Facebook is doing the same thing. They're just doing it in slightly different ways.
So we need to kickstart the online socialist movement.
Well,
anarchy for everyone.
I think we just need to make sure that we still support open source, that we still support browsers like Firefox, that have an interest in remaining independent.
Mm-hmm.
I love Chrome. I think it's a great browser, but I do use Firefox for my day-to-day browsing, and it really is. I mean, I suppose using Firefox may eventually become the vegans of the internet. I don't use it because it's the better browser right now. I use it because I'm concerned about privacy and I want to support open source software. I was making this observation the other day when I use Firefox. If I go into certain sites, like newspaper sites, and people that use certain commenting tools like Disqus, it really doesn't work in Firefox anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a fault of Firefox. I think it's the way that those are scripted now to work in a browser like Chrome, because if I load the same article in Chrome, I can read all of the comments. Now, if I were a user that wasn't paying attention, I would think that Firefox is broke. I wouldn't know that authors are writing things that are specific to WebKit. And I think it's an alarming trend. So,
And that's why people hate IE.
Yeah, you will.
Historically, that's why, because everything was built for IE,
right?
Instead of built to standard.
Did he just phase out?
And then
getting like stuck a little bit.
Now, many years later, that memory of sites either only work on IE or work on everything else.
So Morton, it sounds like you're driving through a tunnel at the moment. I think we just lost you. At least I did. He froze up on me. Did he freeze up on you, Ray?
Yep, he's frozen.
Fantastic. Well, Ray, what do you think about all this? You've been silent.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I looked at what Google's doing, and it just reminds me that these companies are now public companies, and they're behaving like public companies that have people to respond to, and they need to continuously improve and find ways of making more revenue and more value for the stockholders. So that's just the way it is. I mean, and no matter with what spirit they began with. I remember when Google used to have that mantra of do no, yeah, that's like gone. They don't even mention that anymore.
Yeah, I think once they instituted their Chinese policy, I think that went away.
Yeah, exactly. I think that is when it's
will be a little evil. Maybe towards people in China, as we to post on through our browser and anything. That's fine.
Yeah, so I think we're going to see more of that type of stuff. Like we are really seeing sort of these companies try to figure out what their path is going to be, where they're going to go, and how they're going to sort of carve their place out, or their internet place out for themselves. You're seeing moves like, for example, by Amazon and doing something like the Fire TV. Yeah. They're trying to be obviously the content delivery, channel out there. So interesting, and they've made some really good deals with, acquiring some of their own content and also getting some exclusive content for themselves. We're seeing Google being, I don't know, like trying to be everything, maybe not doing as well at it, but
and honestly, it's. This move towards apps is not going to be smooth by any stretch of the imagination. On Twitter, I've been reading over the last week a discussion about a comic book app that everybody loved to use that just changed their policy of making in-app purchases. And it's a direct. They couldn't continue to operate because Apple's taking such a huge cut. So they did kind of what Amazon did with the Kindle, which is. It's a Kindle app. It's like, oh, you want to buy that? Well, you need to go to the web. So you click a button and it takes you out to the browser, and then you can purchase it and then come back into the app and sync it up. And it sort of gets around Apple's, in-app purchase slice from it. And people are really ticked off about it because, the user experience isn't quite as nice now because they've got to go out
that's ridiculous, but that's competition.
Right. Foursquare, the marketing ploy that they've managed to convince people is a good idea, where you just check into places.
Yeah, what the hell is that? Do you guys do that? Do either of you two do that?
I used Foursquare mainly to see what happens when you use it. So I've been very selectively only checking in certain types of places. Right.
Yeah, okay.
So I will only check in when I go to the gym or to the dance studio or to any kind of other active thing, and then I want to see does that change what Foursquare recommends to me, and it does. It's kind of nuts because when you go to a different city, it'll actually say hey, the nearest gym is over here, and you're like, what? Right. But yesterday they announced that they're actually going to split their app in two. So instead of just having this Foursquare app, they're going to have Foursquare which is still the same thing where you check into
Yeah.
like a business, and then you're going to have something called Swarm. And
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
even know what this
Yeah, I heard
is,
about
but
that.
Jeffrey Zeldman was having a nervous breakdown over it, which
Yeah.
is really funny. 'Cause he's like, but I use it. So there's a lot of talk about this, and that's kind of the one of the really bad aspects of apps in general is that when you're on the web, you're restricted to what you can do on the web based on what the web can do, and you can kind of choose how you want to access that content. But if you're using an app, the manufacturer of the app can make those decisions on your behalf, and you have no control over them. So all of a sudden Foursquare decides we're going to make a new app. Then you're like, okay, so then I either stop using Foursquare or I have to update to this new user interface I don't like. I had the experience today of going to a Facebook post and wanting to copy out part of the text within the original post and repost it. And I can't do that because the Facebook app doesn't allow me to access the text. So I had to go to the online version of Facebook just so that I could use the browser to get access to the text, and then I could copy it out.
Good
So,
heavens.
it's the apps restrict what you can do with the content you access, and it leaves it entirely in the hands of the developer, and they can control how you use that content. And that is something people don't think about until they realize they can't do something, right?
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, and that's, to me, also, if we continually move things towards apps, I think it's going to hurt the maturity of the web platform and what the web platform is going to be able to do, because you're right. You're limited in some respects in terms of what you can do when you build, a website or even a web app, in terms of some of the native features. But if we don't continue to push for those things, then everybody's going to be, more interested in, building native applications. There was an article on Fast Company Labs, the Fast Company website, that I've linked to in the chat pod, that talks about the OS 10 web view and why that's the future of Mac OS 10 apps. And it talks, oh, thank you very much. There it is. And this article is about the web authoring tool Macaw. You guys are familiar with this, right?
Macaw. Yes.
Okay. So I always thought it was really funny that Macaw is like two guys or four guys from what I'm seeing in the picture there. But everybody was kind of making fun of them to a degree when the beta was, when they were working on like the alpha and the beta, because they're like, look, you guys want to build this WYSIWYG web tool. Nobody's capable of doing that. Adobe can't do it, with all their resources. Who the heck do you guys think you are? And then, as the alpha went along, there were people that were speculating that it was vaporware and that the actual results were going to be terrible. Well, then it came out and everybody was like, holy crap, this thing's really good. And people, and the people that were beta testing it were giving it praise, and now that it's out, people are saying it's tremendous. I played around with it a little bit, and it looks fantastic. But of course, part of me was wondering, well, why the hell didn't Adobe build this thing? I mean, why was it? Why did it take two guys? And in this article, they talk about how they sort of went back and forth between, okay, we want to make this a web application, based on the web platform. And they started to do that, and they noticed some performance issues and some things that they couldn't do that they needed to do with it. So then they went back to native with a web view inside of it, and that was a big problem. And so here's the funny thing. They found a savior in Adobe's open source brackets platform.
And they used Adobe did build it, they just didn't know it.
They just didn't know it, right? And so the web platform is capable of doing amazing things. Macaw is an amazing tool, and it's based mainly on web platform technology. But if we don't keep pushing in that direction, we won't be able to build tools like that, and we'll have to go through some other silo or content provider.
But I think a lot of that probably has to do with our preconceptions about what the web is and what it can do. And I noticed this a lot because right now there's a lot of talk internally in like the WordPress community about doing all these no reload pages, like these JavaScript-based sites where you never actually reload the page. You just click on a link and then just the content updates. And when you look at that from a, as a web developer, you look at that and you go, oh yeah, that's probably Ajax, or there's something going on behind the scenes. It's not all that complex. But when you talk to people within, the WordPress community or the Drupal community or anything else about that, you realize that their perception of what the website does is actually divorced from what it actually does. They don't really understand what the web platform is and what it can do. So the concept that you can simply grab content and then dynamically load it inside its own page is a really far step to go from their current understanding of the web. And then if you add on top of that an idea of a proper JSON API on top of the platform, so like when the new version of WordPress comes out in August, it'll probably ship with a JSON API built in, which means you no longer have to use WordPress the way it's being used right now. You can just pull the content out and display it anywhere you want. And the necessary leap from WordPress as a blogging platform to I can do whatever I want with the content based on a JSON API is an enormous step for people to go. And when they build apps, they'll still keep building them over here because that's what they know. And I think that that's what happened with like Adobe and why Adobe didn't make Macaw is because they're stuck in this picture of what the web can do. And they make tools that build the stuff that the web can do. They don't use the web to build tools for the web, which is kind of weird because they kind of do with brackets, but they don't seem to realize that they're doing that.
Well, and keep in mind that brackets was acquired. They did not build that from the ground up. Brackets was an open source tool that they acquired, and then
I was going to say, do you think Adobe or someone else will eat Macaw?
I have no insider knowledge of this at all. But if I had to guess, I would say that Adobe has already tried to purchase Macaw. If I had to put a guess out there, I would say that they already approached them or at least sounded them out about perhaps purchasing it. Do I see that maybe happening in the future? Maybe, but honestly, I hate to be critical of Adobe because I'm an Adobe community professional, at least for the rest of the year.
For the next 2 minutes.
Yeah, for the next 3 minutes. And I love those guys. I really do. And I'll tell you what, they've got some amazing people working on the Edge team. They've got Alan Stearns and they've got Divya Martin and some of those people that are just amazingly intelligent. But the company as a whole doesn't seem to really have a strategy for web. Mm-hmm. If they did, they would have done something other with the Macromedia tools other than just kill them, They ate Macromedia, they let the tools wither on the vine, and then they killed most of them. Dreamweaver is the only one that's still plugging forward. Flash is still out there too, but they mishandled that. So, I don't know that they have a strategy. I don't think they understand web designers. They still, their shining white hope web tool is Muse, who is a direct competitor of Macaw and pales in comparison to it. There's not even a close comparison between the two. So what it boils down to is, are they really building tools for professionals? The Edge tools come close, but even the Edge tools, things like Reflow and things like Edge Animate, are they're either niche tools like Edge Animate, or they miss the mark a little bit with Reflow. It's like, okay, with Edge Reflow, we're going to give you a visual tool to design responsive sites. Well, designers don't just want something visual to help them design a responsive site. They want something that designs sites. It being responsive is simply, an aspect of the current climate we live in. That's kind of like we have to build responsive sites. So, I think Adobe, I think they miss out on the strategy part of it. And if they ever come back around to really taking the web seriously and creating professional grade tools, we'll probably see something like Macaw from them, or maybe they'll buy it. I don't know.
That'll be interesting.
Ray, what do you think? I don't want to be out on a limb by myself.
Yeah. No, I think that this sort of dichotomy of apps versus web is always going to be a touchy issue because a lot of apps not for the web. I'm not sure why, but Facebook switched to an app only sort of from a web app to a real app, and I'm not sure that they want to go backward. I'm not sure.
Do you mean real or do you mean native?
Native, yeah.
Because even that shows a bias. Like, oh, this is a real app.
Fake apps.
It's like a web app isn't a real app.
So one thing that's been going on the last couple days is something that Facebook hasn't done in a long time, and it's of course their very huge conference that they haven't had for a while. They had this F8 conference a while ago, like a couple years ago, I think it was 2 or 3 years, and a couple days ago they had it again, and they're promising that it's going to be an annual thing from now on. And you know, it's the F8 conference. So one of the things that they announced in this conference is that they are working on essentially a platform, on becoming a platform company, not just being a social company, but being a platform. And you know, one of the things that they highlighted in their
But that's been a goal of theirs for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, if I was thinking about the industry and how everybody wants this kind of thing to work. Like nobody wants to develop for all these platforms, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't want to develop for the web, Windows, and so that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to be, since they have like 2 billion people, they want to be the place where you can develop apps, where you can deploy to multiple places. But this has been tried, like I can see Morton's frustration. This has been tried so many times in so many places. But the reason is
Java,
this, like
Adobe
if you
Air.
look, I know, but if you look at this is what's driving that. You know, desktop is like dying, and it's going to continue to die. There is not going to be any desktop. I mean, how much longer? Even our laptops are not really desktop machines anymore.
Well,
everything is sort of like mobile.
Let me just interject there. The continuous obsession with desktop is dead is such a red herring, because desktop computers are dead. People are still buying more laptops than ever, and the dichotomy is between a physical big-ass computer on your desk or a laptop. And no one is putting the laptop on that graph because it doesn't look that good when you have the laptop on it. It's a complete digression, but it's absolutely worth pointing out.
That's a valid point. I think, you know, graphs
so
like this...
At what point does the laptop become a mobile device, though?
Well, that's just it.
Mine
I think we've reached a point of if not singularity, but a point where we can really start throwing those things out the window. People use computers with screens. Some of them have keyboards. Some of them don't. Some of them are the size of televisions. Some are the size of phones. You know, I think, you know, how people access content is more important than the device they're actually accessing it on. You know, I think, you know, graphs like this are kind of stupid.
Yes, I think when they become, to me, like when they become mobile devices is when they're always connected, like tablets and phones and
but tablets aren't always connected. You know, I don't have Wi-Fi. I mean, I just have Wi-Fi on my my iPad. So if I'm driving in the car on it, it's no longer connected.
And my laptop has a slot for a SIM card. So, and it's like anytime you open it, it's just automatically on. Of course, it's a Windows laptop, so you Mac people wouldn't understand that. But you know.
Hey,
and it has a touch screen.
Does it take it 45 minutes to boot up, or what's the...
No, it takes 3 seconds.
Wow.
It literally, you open it and it's on inside Windows 8 and you can work.
Get out of here. A Windows machine that boots up fast?
And it's this thin.
Now I believe in it.
And has a glass back on it. I'll show you next time we meet. You'll be shocked.
I will be.
So this is I will be. It's really a tablet. James, don't let him fool you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's an i7 tablet with 16 gigs of RAM, a 256 hard drive.
Right.
Tablet.
tablet.
Sorry, complete digression. Continue.
So the important things that they announced is that they're really trying to become a platform for deploying your mobile applications, and strictly, like, they're really focusing, of course, on mobile across different other platforms. So you can create apps in what appears to be a simple, cohesive way, which I'm not exactly sure what that is, but and then they also announced like an ad network. I'm sorry.
So phone gap. That's what that looks
like. Pretty much.
Yeah, I know. They also bought this other company a while back, and that company, I can't remember the name of it. It's probably somewhere around here. I just had it up to they just bought another company specifically for building the applications in a cross-platform way, and that was pretty cool. Now they also announced an ad network that can actually be included in mobile applications.
Yeah.
So you can have your own app, and it can call this app network and display ads for you. So that's interesting. One of the really big things was that you'll be able to now log into applications through Facebook anonymously. So what that would mean is you can say, I want to log into this app, like I want to listen to Spotify, but I don't want anybody to know that I like Boy George or something, or whatever. You know what I mean?
You wouldn't want anyone to know that.
It's okay, Ray.
That is true.
Right, like maybe I'm like really hooked to Justin Bieber, but I don't want my friends to know that.
Ooh.
So you can log in to any app anonymously. So they're trying to combat some of the issues that people have with logging in through Facebook, because it's like, did you remember when Spotify came out and all of a sudden like all the music that you're listening to was like on Facebook, like it just published it? That sucked, because I can't remember what I was listening to, but it was not cool. And I got really pissed and I canceled that thing right away, because I'm like, dude, man, I don't want anybody to know that I'm listening to the Pointer Sisters or whatever it was. I can't remember what it was at the time.
Go, buddy.
So, anyways.
Just with this conversation alone, we've gotten some information about Ray's musical taste. But look, I trust Facebook about as far as I can throw them.
I know.
This login anonymously thing.
Anonymous.
What they call anonymous and I call anonymous, I think, are probably two different things. I hate platforms like this. I'll be honest with you, whether it's Google building it or Facebook or some, because they all have a vested interest in owning that particular channel. And if you develop for them, then you are basically helping them build that channel. That's why I love the web as a platform, and I'm hoping it matures enough, because, frankly, I'd love to be able to develop a web app that can work anywhere. I mean, that would be great. And if people would get behind creating open APIs for devices that you could talk to and control through web apps, then we probably wouldn't be having this conversation, and Microsoft would have been right all along. But this makes me nervous, because God knows I don't want Facebook, to be the ecosystem that wins. Oh dear God.
And then the Oculus, and then
the Oculus,
right? Yeah, sure.
And then we'll all live in virtual reality.
Yes.
It will be that. What is that movie again? Surrogates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That is precisely what I have.
So the other thing that they announced that I think Jason was alluding to earlier was this concept of app links, which I think is pretty rad. Like, this is actually a cool announcement. And I think we've been wanting this for a long time. So you're in the web or in some application, and you want to create a link to another application so that it directly opens this up somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's the whole concept behind app links. And that, I think, is an awesome idea that needs to have come for a long time. I think right now, like if you're like in an app and sometimes when you click on a address, sometimes it'll take you to the map. It's essentially that concept. Like you can be in one app, click on something, and then it takes you to another app, and it continues the conversation there. But
it all has to go through Facebook?
No, they're developing essentially like a protocol. Like, here's how you would write the URLs so that it has information that is actually a link. I think they're maybe handling like the back-end part that actually says, look up this URL style, and that links to, whatever, Flickr, the Flickr app. Like this kind of URL the protocol would actually send you to this app, and then what happens within that. So.
Right. Okay. Yeah. If it's an open standard, awesome. If it goes through Facebook, then no. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I think.
Because then it's like data mining. You always have to remember, the only value in Facebook is us. They are actively selling the users, right? And in fact, they should be paying us to use it, because Facebook has zero value without the users. And if they are doing anything like this, there's only one reason why they're doing it, is because they're trying to gather as much information about the users as possible. So app links and platforms and all that crap is just an anonymous login. Are you kidding me? They're running full logs on everyone so that they can sell it to marketing company X so that they can direct target marketing to you. That's the entire value of the company. So if it's an open standard, it's awesome, because being able to jump between apps is super frustrating. If it's something that goes through Facebook, then absolutely not.
Well, and it seems as if they really are trying to make it an open standard.
Yeah, I think they are, and I think it'll be really cool, because I've been wanting to do that for a long time.
But I don't trust them. I want
Yeah,
to
I know.
reiterate that. Do not.
And that's another thing that I think
Do
they're
not
trying
trust
to
them.
do. Like they're trying to be a little more trustworthy. Another thing that they announced was sort of more granular control. Like this is really annoying, and you guys, I'm sure, would agree. Like before, when you like accepted an app, like you went to an app and you said you want to play, whatever, zombies or eat us or whatever, and
Yeah.
you click like login with Facebook. It gave you like a lot of permission things, and you hit OK. And then what started happening is, like, if Morton was my friend and it noticed that I like certain things, all of a sudden, because you were signed up onto an app, that company wouldn't have just your information. It would also have my information, like information about what I like what music I liked, what movies I liked. They're now separating that. So when you sign on to an app, it knows that I'm your friend, but it no longer shares any of my data until they have my approval for that. So that's cool.
I wonder what spurred this on.
So, and I'm sorry, I don't have my screen on right now. This is the project that I was talking about. This is the company that they bought that allows you to do cross-platform apps, so this is kind of the platform that they're pushing for that aspect of it. But everything. This is a really good article and everything that they launched at the F8 conference from TechCrunch.
I'll put the article link in the
I'll make sure that I copy that.
Here. I got it already.
Okay, cool.
I am copying the URLs as you show them. I'm reading them and writing them into my browser. See how that wouldn't work anymore in the future?
Yeah, we'll do that.
So yeah, I mean, they've got a couple of really interesting things that they launched. So this is the Granular mobile privacy permissions. Exactly. So that's cool. More transparency over permissions. I think we've seen a Facebook this year that has matured a little bit, and I think they're gonna try to be less, I don't know, annoying about permissions. Less evil. Yes.
Yes. Don't
be
so
hard
evil.
for them. Yeah, it's gonna be hard for them to
don't be so
overcome what they have done before, but they're trying to kind of cool it down, I think, a little bit.
So this is something completely different. But I just wanted to bring it up because it somehow relates to what we're talking about. You've all been playing around with all these Bootstrap and all this other stuff, right?
Yep.
And so yesterday I randomly stumbled upon this page, which is absolutely in beta.
Oh yes. I was looking at this yesterday too. How about that? How funny was that?
It's a Google developer style guide that has basically it's a style guide with no explanation.
Well, it's for the Web Developer Network. For if you go to actually the Web Developer Network, you'll see articles.
Yeah.
And this is the style guide for the people that author these.
So I think the way I came across it was because someone was saying, is Google trying to make a competitor to Bootstrap? And it got me thinking about this whole idea of frameworks and everything, because I'm obsessed with structure and
I know you are.
Like systems and all this kind of stuff. And I'm kind of working on my own code guide and all this kind of stuff. And I'm noticing that a lot of companies are releasing these things now to kind of structure how it's going. So Apple has these for how you make apps. Google has them for how you make apps for the Google platform. Microsoft has them for their platform and everything. And but the funny part is all of these things run on the web. So what I'm wondering is, because we're always talking about all these apps, and you have to make all the apps look the same, and they have to fit within the framework or whatever. And in all the examples they always make are always live websites of some sort that you can go and look at. And I keep, when Ray started talking about how Facebook wants to make an umbrella platform for everything else. Every time I hear that, all I'm thinking is, we already have that umbrella. It's called the web. Why are we making something else? I mean, all the documentation for it is on the web. You build the examples on the web. It works. on the web. Why do you make another platform and then you put the web as a subsection under that platform? That's crazy. You're using the web to make it. The web is on top, and then you can put an umbrella underneath it. So I wish someone would just. I guess it's because no one has trademark rights to the web. They can't say, I own it, but they can say I own the Facebook platform or the Google platform or whatever. So it's bizarre to watch because you have this massive dichotomy between they publish all the stuff on the web and they keep going like, this is how you make websites and this is how you make things for our platform. And then at the same time they're saying, no, you have to actually make like native apps. And forget about all that stuff I just said. It doesn't matter. So, I digress. Ray, I think I lost my mind right now. I see your face, dude.
I already know you lost your mind, dude.
You're like,
I mean, you got that shirt on about Pluto. So.
This is an awesome shirt.
I know, totally dig it, actually. No, you know what? Yeah, I think it's very odd that these companies all like grew up on the web and now they're trying to sort of get away from it because they want more control on the one hand, and then on the other hand, native apps are always going to be faster and have more access to native features and therefore better control for companies like Google who want all the data they can mine out of you. They can't really do that with just web technology. So there's always going to be that. The web's always going to be behind.
See,
they are now public companies. They're no longer like you think of these companies as like nice sort of people entities. Now they've got stockholders to answer to. So yeah, they're going to be all the evil.
I don't mean from that perspective. I mean, at what point do we, the people, start aggressively asking questions about why this is happening? Like, why is it when you go to the library? If you go to the library and borrow a book, no one's going to go and follow you around and check what pages of the book you read.
Yeah.
Why is it okay that these commercial companies do that? That they sit and watch everything we do and read our emails and use all this information that we are just randomly displaying to do things. And that they're charging us money for it as they're doing it.
I'll tell you why it's okay. It's because 2 billion people signed on to Facebook, that platform. Yeah. Because everybody uses Google to search and the assorted Google apps.
But it's free. No. You're talking about the top layer. You're talking about why people are using the app. That's fine. The question is, why is it okay that these companies are gathering this information? Why are people just fine with it? Why are people fine with the companies selling that information to other people and abusing that control to
most people don't know. And they're not paying attention.
In the great words of Dilbert, people want cool stuff for free. And if you can give them free stuff, they'll put up with all kinds of crap to get that. So they're willing. People are just naturally willing to sacrifice their freedoms for this stuff. Yeah, they are. I mean, or there would be 2 billion people signed up to Facebook. We wouldn't have this problem. I mean, at some point, the fact that Facebook is kind of stepping away and stepping back and kind of reanalyzing some of these things means that that is making an impact. These kind of issues are making an impact with Facebook and other companies, but they're going to go as far as they can, and they're going to keep on taking freedoms away. That's why I have an iPhone and not an Android phone, because you have an Android phone.
Oh yes, because
Because nothing is as benevolent as Apple.
No. I'm saying you may say that, but Google controls that whole platform. Like that is just, to me, like that is just crazy. Like if you really believe like that we should be more private, then holy cow, get rid of all your Android phones, because Google is gathering not just data about whatever, Gmail, Google Chrome. Now they have you as an individual walking around gathering data for them with their little cameras and stuff. It's very scary.
Should build your Raspberry Pi smartphone.
Yes.
For $125.
Yeah.
Or get the new Tor phone that's like on the Tor network, which is probably going to be dismantled by the NSA because it's too secure.
Yeah. You're not only the product, you are the spy. Like you are the person gathering data for them. Yeah.
I'm very aware of it. All right. Well, this was a very interesting discussion.
Yeah.
I love it.
Happy birthday, Basic.
Happy birthday, Basic. Right. That is true. When was the
50
last time you
years.
wrote a line of Basic?
Oh man, it's been a long time. It's been such a long time.
True that.
But we all did that, right? You guys all did the hello and then go to 10. Like,
Oh,
Yeah.
of course.
All the jumping. And
yeah, that was awesome.
I used to write bat file. I used to write batch files that would start programs. They were so stupid. They would be like, instead of starting the game, you would write in my batch file, and then you would like get all this text first. I was like, this is awesome program Morton wrote about, and then like wrote some code, and then it would start the game. And it was like, or you could just start the game and not have all this crap that had nothing to do with the game itself.
Those were the good old days when nobody knew what we were doing.
That's right.
Where we were going.
The copyright infringements in that. Like, I remember at one point recoding the text inside a game so that it said that I made it.
Nice.
You know how when you open the game, or
Yeah.
I think it was either a game or Photoshop or something like that, where it actually said like developed by Morten Rand Hendrickson, because I'd actually gone in and found the text and just swapped it out.
So you mean you didn't develop Pog? That wasn't you?
It was a game with the
Ultima wasn't you either?
It was like a off-road car game that rode in like a three-dimensional space. I have to find it now. It was an awesome game. It was very hard to control those stupid cars. But it was like made by me with like a big ass name at the top. And my name was too long, so it would like span outside of the margins of the graphics because I have a very long name. Those were the days. That's how we all learned to write code.
You wanted people to play a game with you, you pulled out a board game for Pete's sake. Now it's like...
the last thing before we leave, I just have to find the URL. So did you hear, Ray, you probably know about this. The guy that made Minecraft, his name is...
Notch. Yeah, Notch.
Yeah. Have you seen this...
That he pulled out because of Oculus Rift, or is that what you're saying? Or?
No, he made a new game that's called Drowning in Problems.
Ha!
Sounds like my life.
Sounds depressing.
Drowning in Problems.
I got enough of that. I don't need to play a game. I got a 3D version of that.
If I can bring this up, you'll like it. So hold on.
I gotta check it out.
.notch.net/drowning.
Drowning in Problems. It's a text game.
Yeah.
Check it out.
See, it's like this is old school.
Yeah.
So before the end of the week, it'll say like made by Morten Rand Hendrickson.
Yeah. I'll rewrite the whole story. It'll be the worst game ever.
Right.
You're standing outside. It's raining. What do you do? So it starts with the sentence, "There is nothing
to solve." Very cool.
And it's interesting because, you know, this is the guy who made Minecraft. So you know that this isn't going to be some trivial little dinky thing. There's obviously some thinking here. And there's some people talking about it and how, like, they're trying to figure out what the hell this is. Because obviously there's something going on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a game. I'm expecting Ray to now play this game all next week. And then report back and tell us what it's actually about.
I don't know. You have hope. Okay, that's interesting.
You know, if you think about it, if you want to do web platform at its most basic form, this is a game that will work on any device.
True that. It's devolving.
This is back to basics, and it's actually something that works on any device. And you don't need an app to run this. This runs in a web browser, and there's no fancy graphics or any kind of crap. It's just, you know, so. That's my final word for the day.
Fair enough.
So that is full time for author content. Thank you both for joining me today, James.
Yeah, man.
And
Always
Ray.
a pleasure.
The fourth.
The fourth.
Be with you.
That's so sad.
And I will not be celebrating Star Wars Day by watching all the episodes. Although I keep wondering if I should watch them in the machete method. It does sound interesting.
I started watching once again the original series with my kids. So.
I cannot. I've watched the last one, the last published one, in the theater, and I was watching with a bunch of my friends, and holy crap, we laughed so much. Like, it's just such a bad movie. I just
It
can't.
is.
I cannot take it. So I want to do the machete thing, but I can't. Anyway, we will be back here, same bad time, same bad channel next week. Until then, have fun on the web while it lasts, and we'll try to fix it for you. Oh, and go to Facebook right now, and you'll get my lynda.com WordPress Essential Training course for free, all the way until May 15th.
Yeah. Oh, and I do want to point out that my deploying icon fonts for the web course came out this week.
I saw that.
Sweet. Awesome.
Yeah.
I saw that. I need to make sure that they put a link to it in one of the courses that I have on track right now. So
yeah, pretty stoked about it.
That is a cool course. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll put all the links to everything we talked about in the description on Google Plus and on YouTube so that you can all find what we're talking about. Cool. Thanks for watching.
All right.
Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.